When you enter Disneyland, there are so many new and exciting experiences that await. You can't help but feel drawn towards every ride or show, every sight, sound, and smell. This is often how Mr. Toad feels when it comes to his mechanical mania. Mr. Toad's wild ride in Fantasyland is based on the Walt Disney short film The Wind in the Willows, based off Kenneth Grahame's children's novel. The story goes that J. Thaddeus Toad suffers from an overwhelming mania every time he sees a new mechanical wonder, and in this case, he becomes obsessed with an automobile and drives it recklessly across the countryside. Early plans for Fantasyland included a dark ride featuring Mr. Toad. As the show building was being constructed in Fantasyland, Imagineer Bill Martin began planning out the ride path. While the building itself was identical to the size of the other buildings housing Peter Pan's Flight and Snow White's Adventures, the Mr. Toad ride layout had the disadvantage of sharing a maintenance room with Peter Pan's Flight, and also lending some of its floor space to the former Mad Hatter shop. The Mr. Toad ride system and track were adapted from an off-the-shelf design that was sold by Aero Development. All that had to be done was to customize the look of the vehicles. A test track was set up at the Disney Studios. The minimum turn radius of the ride system was 4 feet, making for fast and wild turns. Imagineer Bruce Bushman designed the look of the ride vehicles. Bob Gurr designed the chassis and lap bar functions. Then, Aero Development fabricated the vehicles. There are 12 cars in total, a maximum of 9 on the track, while 3 sat in the maintenance bay on reserve. In total, the ride had a duration of 98 seconds and had a capacity of 700 riders per hour. Guests began their wild ride by bursting into the doors of Toad Hall, past the fireplace, and through the library. Then they found themselves passing Ratty's house and heading to the cobblestone streets of London, nearly colliding with a police officer and his vehicle. Your car swerved towards the docks, where it narrowly avoided going off the wharf, but then has to zigzag its way through crates and barrels. You then turn to the back roads of the countryside and find yourself entering a railroad tunnel where you collide with a locomotive. Now you pass through the jaws of hell, where you are given a very warm welcome as flights of devils giggle and bounce around. After a final crash through a wall, you wind up back at the loading area of the ride. In the ride, several rooms and passages were separated by automatic doors designed to open as the vehicle approached, although sometimes they malfunctioned or didn't open in time, and the ride vehicle would slam into them, forcing them open. The attraction proved to be successful and received upgrades in 1961, specifically affixed to the malfunctioning automatic doors and barriers, and also making some of the flatboard characters three-dimensional. But over the decades since, the attraction would receive other refreshes that added more details to the scenery and special effects. Ultimately, the ride remained relatively the same, even into the late 70s. Bob Gurr had instructed maintenance crews not to touch the inner workings of the ride vehicles, because they were still operating off of the same materials since 1955, and he wanted to keep it that way. When Fantasyland closed for its complete remodel of 1983, a lot of attention was given to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. They built a new location for the Mad Hatter shop in order to free up space within the building to add scenes and lengthen the experience a bit. They also replaced all the ride vehicles with slightly larger ones that had stronger electric motors. The first major change to the ride that you notice is actually the exterior. They recreated Toad Hall, as Walt had originally intended for the ride building to look. Once you are inside, you can see that the loading area was expanded by removing part of the wall, so you can see the doors to the library and the crackling fireplace next to it. Ride vehicles then go zooming down a hallway, smashing through the atrium. You swerve to avoid hitting a policeman, getting a glimpse of the town square beyond him, then gliding past Ratty's house before narrowly avoiding a collision into oncoming traffic. Your car then breaks through a barrier, taking you out into the countryside, where a farmer warns you not to go this way. You turn away and head towards the wharf, once again just barely avoiding careening off the edge of the pier. The vehicle then crashes through a room with barrels of explosives, bursting through a brick wall as they explode behind you. Now you're in town, swerving away from oncoming vehicles and passing through Winky's Tavern and heading out into the town square where you see a fountain featuring Mr. Toad and his horse, Cyril. You break into the courthouse where the judge sentences you to jail, but after breaking out of jail, you wind up on the railroad tracks where you collide with a train. Alas, you are now in hell, passing beyond the new mouth of the devil and running into the judge in devil form. As you wind your way through the maze of fire, brimstone, and little devils, you end the ride by passing under a green dragon and bursting through the wall back into Toad Hall. This attraction may look simple and unamusing, but what makes Mr. Toad's Wild Ride a fun experience is the whimsical environments you explore. The ride's sets and structure has always been somewhat of a tight maze, which might be claustrophobic to some, but I find it rather intimate. While other Fantasyland dark rides each bring their own magic to the table, Mr. Toad's is the only one that makes me feel like I truly am in the middle of a Disney cartoon. By adding steel plates to the floor at designated areas, you get the sense that you are driving over cobblestones or rickety wooden slats on a pier, or even going over the wooden ties on a railroad. Now, of course, I can't talk about this ride without mentioning the elephant in the room, the fact that at the end of the ride, you die and go to hell. Although many people might wish this fate on someone they know, there actually is a defined reason behind this. You see, in Disney's movie, The Wind in the Willows, Mr. Toad atones for his recklessness and carefree joyride by being sent to jail and having to get the deed to his home back from Winky and the Weasels. But since there really wasn't room to play the whole storyline out on a 98-second ride, they still had to make the reckless drivers atone for their actions in a way that gets the point across in a laughable way. So, you die and get sent to hell. Whatever your thoughts are on this, it's important to remember that this is merely meant to be a whimsical feature of the ride, designed to make you laugh at the absurdity of it all. An interesting fact about the hell scene is that the room is always kept hot, unlike the rest of the ride, which is air-conditioned. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is still a very popular attraction. Its lines sometimes extend 30 to 45 minutes on busy days, which is surprising considering how few people of my generation even have seen The Wind in the Willows, or The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I can only surmise that the ride's popularity comes from people's enjoyment of it, proof that this attraction is still a success, not because it's an IP or because it's a thrilling experience, but because people consider it a classic. We can rest assured that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride will continue taking people merrily, merrily, merrily on their way to nowhere in particular.